Welcome to F5 Recovery Radio. This is your host, One Pretty Ricky, with my co-hosts, Kirsten Huovinen and Adam Martin. We're so thankful that you've decided to tune in to watch our episode. And if you're listening online, thank you again so much for just supporting us. We are sponsored by the F5 Project and the Ridge Recovery and Treatment Center. And so we're really grateful that they saw the vision and able to continue to help us have this amazing episode. So today we're going to be talking about motivation and recovery. And as you can probably imagine, it will be very much off topic, but nevertheless, we're going to have a good time. So looking at you, Adam.
Some motivation in recovery?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know what I really enjoy doing is that when we say some crazy shit on here, I'll look at the Tell Well guys just to see their response. And it's like,
yes. Like, were you not ready?
Millennials.
You warned me. Anyway.
My daughter does that. She's like,
No, Daddy, no. No, don't do that.
so her thing now, like my daughter, we'll get into your topics.
Yeah.
So
We always
we'll
do.
get there.
you and your dictator topics.
Dictator.
Wow. BBC. So my daughter's 3. I've been calling her baby her entire life.
Yep.
Like that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, she didn't even know what her name was because everyone called her baby.
Right.
Recently, at what I don't know what they call it, childcare. I'm trying to say the right names. I get my ass chewed for saying daycare. It's childcare. And she came home and I was like, "Hey, baby," and she's like, "My name's Kinsley," and I was like, "Duh, what?" And she's like, "My name's Kinsley."
Yeah.
And I was like, "But Daddy can still call you baby." And she's like, "No." I
She
was like,
matured under
yeah.
your eyes.
I was like, so now I'm like at this moment where is it more important for me to be called Daddy, right? Or for me to call her baby,
Right.
or for her to have her independence, right?
Right.
And I really do believe that it starts at this
yeah.
age, and that if I pressure her into accepting being called baby, that it could have some effects,
Yeah. That'll
right?
last.
But the other side of my mind's like, do I care?
Yeah.
It's like I want what I have with my
Yeah.
daughter,
Right.
right? And so I double asked her. I was like, "So you don't want me to call you baby?" And she's like, "My name's Kinsley." And I was like, "Okay, Kinsley." And then she just smiled, and she's like, "And your name's Adam." I was like, "No, we are not doing that.
Don't you ever.
You will call me Daddy until it's not cool to call me that anymore, and you'll call me Dad."
I know. I've had them say my name, and I'm like, don't ever do that again. It's so weird.
I think her brother's like putting her up to it because she did it this morning. She's like, "Hey, Adam," and I was like, "Get out of my house." I don't have that much stuff that's just for me. That's my thing.
Such a betrayal.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm curious, like, is it like you just, as a parent, like, you just want to still stay dad or daddy forever? Or you just like because I know my parents wouldn't let us call them by their first names because it was like a disrespect.
Yeah.
Super impersonal. It's just like you've been disregarded. I don't know why it's so cutting, but to have the
But I
boys
call
come
you
in
by
and
your
say,
first names.
Kirsten,
Like different?
don't you
Or
ever
like
do
child?
that.
You call your parents by their first
No.
name?
I call you guys like by your first. Like, so I'm just wondering, like, curious, like, is it
Ricky,
just,
I don't know
You
if you
can
know
call
this, but
me
I'm
Mom.
not your daddy.
What I say behind your back is my business.
Yeah.
He said to call him Adam,
You said to call him that.
I would appreciate if you call me Adam. Yeah. You don't need to call me anything else.
Oh, it's really funny.
Yeah, so I love this show.
Okay.
I don't
yeah.
know what kind of weird shit you're into.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, am I gonna have that same reaction? Because at some point, like, Ricky's gonna like, all right, trying to flex on his dad and be like, no, you can't call me, son, Ricky, whatever. Like, I wonder if I'm gonna have that same reaction, like, no, I'm your father, like, or is it just gonna be like, I'm just gonna let it happen? I don't know. I think if he called me Richard or Ricky, it'd be weird, but
Yeah.
because we share the same name, I think maybe that's the difference. Because we have literally.
Don't you have the same name as your dad?
Yeah. But like,
Still call him daddy?
sometimes.
Just kidding.
I'll call him, well, yeah, I guess.
or dad.
Yeah, daddy. Yeah, I guess it depends.
Yeah.
Just like it just rolls out.
You use his first name though instead of dad?
Sometimes, like in like public, like when we're like out, like I don't call him dad, because I think it's just weird to like this is my dad Richard, or like, I'll do it like that, but I won't ever call him dad out in public.
I don't think I've ever introduced my parents and said their names.
You just say this is my mom, this is
Yeah.
my dad, and then leave it at that.
Yeah.
Really?
When I was a kid, everybody called my mom, so it was. I don't even think they knew what her first name was.
Oh, like your friends called your mom?
Yeah.
Even though they have
Ma.
Yeah.
Ma.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. It was kind of like a nickname.
And I never had the opportunity to introduce my dad.
That's so dark.
Oh.
I was trying to keep it together. Me and my kids,
We have our own
we just have a dark sense of humor when it comes to dads in our family, because we just not had good history with our dads, so, and even my kids didn't until I got sober, so it was,
But it stops with you. That's really awesome.
went to the gas station, never came back.
Still getting no smoke.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which I'm excited that we're gonna get to have your sons on the show.
Yeah, we could.
Ooh, when?
Yeah, we're gonna have Brecken and Nick
Aw.
on the show.
That's
And
awesome.
talk about family recovery and stuff like that.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Kind of do it around like the Thanksgiving,
Oh,
Time
this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
We're a little. I don't think that. So Nick said that he thinks that Brecken will probably just kind of be laid back or whatever, but I know Nick is gonna have a field day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have them on separately because I wanted.
Oh, you are. Oh, I thought you were gonna have them on at the same time. Okay.
Because this is too much. But like, I don't want to.
That's too much Martin.
Yes.
a whole lot of
Can't
Martin.
do all that.
But I just feel like with Brecken, like I want to be able to like, I just kind of get that vibe that he might like be kind of more shy or more introverted because Nick or you are very extroverted, and so they're not going to be able to hear him.
Actually, his personality comes out quite a bit when Nick's around.
Yeah. So he'll be around. He'll just be sitting over where Darby is.
Just be over there shutting up.
Yeah. So we're gonna have him.
So describe your topic here.
So motivation to recovery. Like what? My motivation for recovery is now my kids. At the time when I first got sober was I didn't want to go to jail. And then it was like, okay, I want to stay married. And then it was like, well, then it like kind of just went down. So it's just like, at some point, just identifying what's your motivation in recovery. Like, what's your motivation to start with, like, what was your motivation to get sober at any point? Like, was it the same? Like, Adam, like, obviously, I know you've had, like, several times going at it.
Yeah,
Wow.
you say
Way
you
to
go.
take shots. Shots fired. Adam, I know you tried to get
I
sober,
know,
but it took
again,
like
but-
15 years. So, like, you've obviously had a ton of motivation over the years.
But was it the same motivation every time? Or was it different?
Well, I mean, I would say relative. Yeah, like the titles of it would probably be the same,
Sure.
but the details were different.
Mhm.
So like wanting to get sober when I was 19, it was because I had a kid. Wanting to get sober when I was 31, it was because I had kids.
Okay.
So it was. I think it's always been about the kids. It's always been about. I just wanted to have a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, I think the big problem is that it was more of a consequence. Like it was like in my head, it was consequential. I have to get sober.
Right.
Like because I can't drink.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really motivating as much as it was a disappointment that I just don't get to be normal.
Right.
I think later when I finally did get sober, it was because I really, really wanted to. Like I wanted it more. I wanted sobriety more than I wanted to be drunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was. So I think relatively it was probably the motivating factors were the same. The problem with me is that those things aren't very motivating after I get sober.
Yeah. They don't
Right.
last.
And I thought that's where you were going to take this topic or whatever. It's like there's not a single motivating factor that can't help people get sober.
Right.
But a time will come when you realize it's not going to keep you sober.
Well, that was for the next part.
Oh, that was for the next episode?
No, next part of this
Oh.
episode. Like, we're starting with just, like, getting sober, like, motivation and that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well, you've had
You might as well
10
just
years.
hit it now. So, you know, I've it's kind of like even like having a higher power or whatever. Like the higher power that I, you know, submitted myself to when I got sober is not the same one that I have today.
Yes.
Right? It's way more defined. It's probably more doctrine orientated than it would be just a big guy in the sky.
Right.
You know, because when I got sober, it was I had been through like a pastoral school. I was going to school to be a pastor and get an MDiv.
Did you do Teen Challenge?
And I also did Teen Challenge or whatever, which
Okay.
is very religious,
Yep.
but great, right? I was attending church and going to Bible doctrine classes and stuff. So like I knew, not like a MacArthur or like a Wayne Grudem or a John Piper or something. Like I didn't know the Bible like they know the Bible, but I knew it pretty good. I had a pretty good understanding of like context, historical, and language and all that stuff. And I spent more when you're drinking and like learning that stuff. Like when it comes like to being sober, it's not very powerful.
Yep.
Because there was a lot of trauma involved with that stuff while I was learning it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so this is why most people who had traumatizing childhoods while they were going to church, even though the church might not have had anything to do with it, or maybe in some cases it did, there's very relative factors of the feelings associated during that time frame while you were learning to go to church.
Right.
And so some people, when they get sober, they don't even know why it's triggering bad memories of when they don't have bad memories with that part. And so they'll get sober and they'll just be like, God's not for me.
Right.
You know? And so I really believe that that's part of the reason why 12-step organizations made it kind of like open-ended. Like, just believe in something,
Right.
anything, and do the steps, you know, as part of the steps. We have no monopoly on God. We have no...
Right.
And I really think it's like you go to a 12-step program as an alcoholic and then you go back to church a better Christian. If that was your choice.
Right.
Because if
I
you're
got
not evolving or not changing...
Well, I just like I honestly am wondering the motivation, and you've had more experience with this than me, and I have no.
Thank you.
Adam Martin,
Mansplain the shit out of this real quick after she said that.
Okay.
Darby is not here.
No, we're the hell. Okay, you have more experience with the whole religious thing than I do. I've just never been in any organized religion of any kind.
Cool.
But when people get sober in a 12-step program and then move away from that into a religious organization, what is the motivation there? How does that work? The same? Is there that connection? Why is
I'm
it so
glad you asked
attractive?
that question.
Yeah.
Kirsten.
Yeah, dumb it down for me.
we, and I'm not speaking for you. When I say we, I mean me. I help people develop whatever journey it is that they're on.
Sure.
Right. So someone stopping going to a 12-step program and going to church instead, or someone stopping going to a 12-step program and relapsing, to me, it's all one journey, right? So I just, like, I'm having lunch today with Newt.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, tell him hi.
Yeah, and he doesn't participate in this world, recovery world anymore, and he's come to find out he's probably not as bad as he thought he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and my hat's off to him. It even says in the book, if you find a way to drink, our hats are off to you,
No
sir.
kidding.
Right? Because we have
jealous,
tried.
yeah.
It's like, I've tried. And if you're able to pull it off and drink normally,
Right.
mad props. Because if I could do that, I would do it all the fucking
all
time.
day.
Like, all the time. If I could drink normal, I'd drink normal all the time. It's like, I really beat that one down, didn't I? So anyways, I I don't understand why they do, because they found so much depth and weight of like recovery in the 12-step
Right.
programs, why they decide. And if they do it, does it mean they're going to get drunk?
No.
I've seen both.
Yeah.
I've seen guys, and I think what it comes down to is, what is the core belief? Is the core belief like, I'm leaving the 12-step program because there's people I'm here resentful at, and I'm going to go do something different? Or is it because now I have a bunch of kids and I'm
Yeah.
responsible for their upbringing and their higher power, and I really believe that going to church is going to enhance that, and that happens to be at the same time as my home group, right? Like, I think that the motivating factors of whatever it is that you're doing has a big part to do with what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So in the success that comes from that, you know, usually if that was the case, someone would find a different home group.
Right.
Right, but I've even found with I got 4 kids and a bunch of dogs and, you know, businesses and stuff, and I used to talk shit about people who went to 1 meeting a week.
Yeah.
Now I'm there. And so, like, the things I tell the guys that I sponsor, I was like, whatever you talk shit about today is going to be you tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, you just don't have the experience. And we usually when you talk crap about other people, it's usually something you're jealous of,
Yeah.
right? Or it's something you don't understand, or something you don't have experience in, or someone you probably view as above you, right? That's why you hear like, oh, he thinks he's better than me. He probably is.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. He's not.
That's why they
But-
like him more.
But rarely do I see people who I see as more successful than me, whether it's recovery, family, business, talking shit about me. But you'll find me being judgy about them because I lack the experience. And once I get it, then it's like a whole different. So that's why, like, when it comes to that church thing, I've had groups of people that have in the past left 12-step groups and went and started their own like religious group, and every one of them, for the most part, ended up back in the rooms
Yeah.
or jail or whatever, and I really believe it was because it was led on resentment. If it's not, if it's genuine, it's kind of like what it says in the book, like if you have good reason to be there, right, like a bar, like if you have good social reason to be there, but if you're just going there to just
to go,
because someone told you not to,
Yeah.
or because, you know what I mean, you're trying to prove someone wrong or whatever, the usually that will lead it into a path of destruction for self. Not in a good way, because destruction of
true.
self
Okay.
is good,
Yeah.
right? So ego and all
Yeah.
that stuff, but in a sense of like destroying, being a tornado in your own life, an F5 tornado.
Ooh.
Hey.
Well played.
Plugged in. Thanks for sponsoring.
But F5's the opposite, so that's why we call it project, not tornado.
But I think the goal, when people leave a recovery program with a resentment, like you said, but just like they always say, all you need to start a new meeting is a resentment in a big book, which is true. And it's also, which is fine, because it starts a lot of new meetings and it helps a lot of different people. I think that's fine. But I think that when you have an addiction, you are always searching for the magic bullet, something to save you, something to make it go away, you know, and that's temporary for everything that I start. Every burst of reform I have, every like, oh, I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to go to this, or I'm going to go to that. It does work for a little bit, because that part of my brain is like busy now and connected, and then that wears off, you know, and it's just like, I have to have something consistent, and that's why 20 plus years later, I still go to meetings. I still need somebody, a sponsor. I still need accountability. I still need that motivation, you know, to go. And my home group's on Tuesday nights. Every Tuesday, I wake up and think, I'm not going. I'm gonna tell him something. You know what I mean? I'm not going. I don't know why I have to do that, and I go, and I'm always happy after I go. But it really, like, without the accountability, it would be really impossible to get there sometimes, you know? Especially in January, or when it's inconvenient. Like when my kids have something I don't want to miss. But I have to put this before my marriage. I have to put this before my kids. Otherwise, I just end up really terrible and crabby and difficult to deal with, you know? Not that I would ever be difficult, but...
Have you ever found yourself having like bad motivation in recovery? Like,
I think getting to any motivation is good motivation. When I first got sober, I found this meeting that was all boys, and I found one boy to sleep with, so that was my motivation to go to meetings. Like, you have, oh my God. And anyway, so, but that was my motivation.
Yeah.
But I'm still here, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it worked out. There were just too many attractive fellas in one room to not go. And they had potential too. Oh my God. No driver's license, but that I don't mind.
Yeah. I saw a Facebook meme the other day, and it was like a trap, and it was like, I have war. Oh, it was you! It was you! It's like, it had underneath the trap, it says, I have warrants, and it says, like, looking for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
I was like, that is so true. Or that one where the girl's like looking really, you know, like glamorized or whatever, and it's just like when he tells you that he just got out of prison. Just like,
Ooh, I know.
I can fix it.
Something's wrong.
this is why there's so much stigma, by the way. It's usually guys who hate me is because because of the stigma of like felons being badass and like cool and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all of us are. There's just as many badass guys that are felons that are not felons. So there's probably more not felons.
They should get caught, yeah.
Yeah, because there's like 328 million people in the United States. There's only like 80 million, which is a very large number. But there's way more non-felons than there, you know. So we're like the Brad Pitts of people.
Yeah, kind of. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway. I know. Somebody shows up with flowers and a teddy bear. I'm like, gross. Get out of here. I want you to just pull up and honk.
Oh my god.
Anyway. So yeah, I think that you can have not the best intentions for going. I don't care if you go because you feel guilty that somebody will be mad that you're not there. Just go. Just get there. Because you can't, what is it? You can't think your way out of this one. You can't think your way to a better life. You cannot. It just is in the wiring.
The motivations are going to change anyways.
Yeah.
Like if you really want recovery and you continue to go, they'll change eventually. You just sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's it.
Because you'll have to get a different boyfriend after a little bit. Yeah.
Like, because if you're going because of that guy or that girl, and then you finally get them into your life or whatever, and then you break up, then it's awkward, right? Like, then it's really going to test you as like, is recovery important to you? Because most people just leave.
Yeah.
You know, but if you treat it like you would, like if you were like an entrepreneur, you find a different meeting, right? Or you make amends to them and continue to go to the same one. Yeah. Right. Just go. Like, it's really not that big a deal. It's only a big deal to people who make it a big deal.
Right.
You know, like people who wear, like men who wear pearl necklaces.
Well, I was going to wear my pearls today, too.
It's only a big deal because Ricky makes it a big deal.
I think it's amazing. I love it.
But it's subtle.
I had to say something. I saw it. I know you saw me when I saw it. Because I was like looking over there and I was like, what the fuck?
Well, that's why on last week's episode, I just tied my shirt so you wouldn't see it. So I was like, okay, 'cause then it's going to be distracting.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to wear it today, and then I thought you boobs would be like, oh, pearl necklace. I thought bats on a town, all that shit.
I couldn't.
I couldn't do it. So I was like, I can't do it. It's just it's a setup. It's a setup.
I would have said something.
I know. It's just,
I would have not said anything.
You
I
would've.
only said it because Ricky's
Yeah, he would have jumped in as soon as I started. Yeah.
Like, I can say the things to him that I want to say to you. But it's appropriate here, not appropriate here. Right, Darbs?
I think
Yeah.
Did you get a new finger tattoo?
I did. I got some line work done yesterday, yeah.
Very cool.
From Charm in Dilworth. She's really good.
Yeah.
Her name is Hannah. Anyway.
Yeah. But I think, so I like that you put in that perspective of like, any motivation is good motivation, because I definitely have had some like bad motivation. And I remember one time specifically, there was this guy, I was in treatment, or one of my treatments. Name was Mike, solid dude. Like, he would come all the time, but like Mike kept fucking up. Like, every single week he would like be sober. It would be clean on Tuesday, sometimes Tuesday, but for sure on Thursday. Weekend would go, and he's like, and he would come back, and he'd be like, oh, I messed up. And I would go every Tuesday waiting for Mike to just be like messed up or have like relapse, just so I could feel better about my, because I'm like, oh sweet, I have 2 weeks, Mike relapse. Oh, I have 3 weeks, Mike relapse. And I just like, I didn't even go for me. I just wanted to be like, wait for Mike to say that he messed up, and then I go right after him and be like, getting on 4 weeks, whatever it was. And like, but it was just, I don't know. I had this like fascination of like, but then I remember I felt super guilty, like not the first week. So then he came to the meeting on Tuesday, and he was like, oh, stay clean this weekend. And I was like, whoa. I was like, nah, he's gonna mess up. He's gonna screw up. Like somehow he's just gonna like go back out. And then the next week he was like, still clean, hit 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and I'm like, yo. And then I really had to like, what's the like what my fascination, my really obsession with him to like me being here and him just constantly just like I wanted to like just have a bigger gap. And then when I ended up at the time, of course, I didn't have a sponsor, so I didn't really like work through that. And then when I did get a sponsor, my sponsor had 7 years on my 9 weeks. Like it was like, okay, there was a significant difference, but they're a sponsor, it's fine. I'm just a regular guy. Mike's just a regular guy. We can, do a lot of that. But then I just felt so guilty, and I had to make amendments to him. Like, Mike, I'm so sorry that like I didn't wish that you would be like that you would go out and gamble, but I purposely came to this meeting wondering if you did, and like Mike, how'd you do this weekend? Like be expected.
It was almost like you were betting on Mike.
Yeah.
You were just as sick as he was.
I was.
Sick.
But it was just, I was like, man, like, that's such a terrible. But I mean, it kept me coming back.
For real.
I can't tell you how many times I was just like, I hope that SOB gets drunk.
I got more time than that.
And if you really think about what you're saying, yeah. Like, I throw it in Scott's face all the time, and 3 months sober longer than he is.
Right. So, yeah.
We'll be walking up to the car, I'll be like, shotgun, I'll be like, sobriety. And you'll be like, oh,
remember when that was a thing?
Yeah, we used to, like, back in the day, whoever had the most sobriety got shotgun.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, being a slipper or chronic relapser.
You were always in the back.
Man, I remember one time.
Yeah.
I remember one time, some of our friends got stuck, like their car broke down. So me and my friend Robert Robert was like, we're on our way. And I'm like, I'm coming with you, right? And so I'm like riding shotgun on the way down there. And I was like, and I already made it up. I was like, I came all the way here. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting shotgun.
Doing a good deed.
I'm doing a good deed. And so then we get there, we help him, with the vehicle, get it pushed over to the side of the road because we didn't have a spare or whatever. And we go back to the truck, and I go and open the door, and dude who was the reason they broke down comes up and he's like, sobriety. And I was like, no, it doesn't work here. And he's like, and then I look at the guys, and we all have this honor code, this loyalty to the cause.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it does. And I was like, and I had built it up for an hour. The whole way there, that I was sitting shotgun. We're just young and dumb. I was like 22, and I sat in that back seat on the hump.
Oh no!
Just bitching the whole way back. Yeah. And finally, guys turn around. They're like, "Shut up! He gets shotgun. He's got sobriety." And I'm like, I do too. What makes it more important? We always say that the new person is the most important person in the room, and you guys treat me like shit.
I know. Trying to be the most important all the time. But it is a motivation to be able to be like, I get some recognition for the painful 3 months or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, a lot of those guys that were there when I first came in are not around anymore. So it's, so if we continue to do sobriety for shotgun in the car, I'd do it all, I'd get it all the time. Now I don't care.
Now you got to drive your little car.
Yeah, and then like my.
He's the one driving.
Yeah. Now I'm driving the car. Now I got to haul everybody's. That's wrong. So my sponsor talks. His sponsor talks about how there's like a couple different like surrenders or like changes or whatever. There's like when you get to the program or whatever, you think you're the most important person. And you need to let everybody know that. And then eventually the time comes where you probably are because you're helping a lot of people, but you don't need it.
Right.
You don't need to be the most important person. You just want to be helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
I spent all these years talking about how important I was.
Mm-hmm.
Then I probably do become important, and now I don't care. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I don't want it at all. Like
Right.
there's a lot of negative stuff that comes with that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Doug Burgum.
Right.
Guy became successful, and now he's got memes, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video last night just calling him out and some stuff. Like I'm just like, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that stuff, and I'm like, I just want to be helpful.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just like a level of gray and uncertainty and shit that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's humbling.
For sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, sobriety is humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think, like, as far as motivations go, I think because, and this is probably, just my belief, but because it's an illness, it doesn't care what your motivation is. There's not, you can't love your kids enough. You can't
Right.
want to not be a disappointment enough. It's just not going to work like that, Because there are people that would breathe for their kids, give their life for them, but can't stay sober.
Right.
And it's not about how much they love their kids. That's two different things. It's just completely different. It's just that we don't really know how to treat addiction yet. And so we don't know how to put it in a box and classify it. Like you were saying earlier, there is no test that you can be like, oh, turns out, you know what I mean? Your potassium's low and you're alcoholic. There's just nothing clear like that. So it makes it really hard. But the longer you're sober, I think the more your motivation does become, whatever you've created, your family or whatever. And then when you were talking about surrenders, initially you get into recovery and you surrender, like I give up. I just don't want to, I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to keep going to jail. I don't want to keep letting people down. That's one surrender. But then in my recovery, in the teen years or whatever, after I quit going to meetings, lost my mind, became suicidal, and then decided to go back to meetings, it's like that was a spiritual surrender. I mean, it was just like, this has me at my core, way beyond drinking,
Right.
And so it's just a matter of like, do I want my life to be full and just full of love and kindness, or do I want to not have to go to the meetings and not have to whatever, but be crabby all the time or just so negative? You just can't stand yourself. But so yeah, the motivation changes as you go along, but yeah.
Which
It's like a selfishness surrender,
Yeah.
like getting sober, and then it was like all about me, and
Mm-hmm.
and then it would be like show up to a meeting and be like, hey everybody, I'm here.
Right.
I made it. I got my license back, guys. Like I'm 31,
Right.
and then something happens where you're like showing up and you're like, hey, this is Bob. Like he's new,
Right.
and you just make it all about them. I think that was like when it became real. Like it wasn't real to me until I was 2 years sober, because getting a year to me was like, I did it once.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I do it twice, it's real.
Right.
Like that was, I don't know where that happened in my head. It's probably not even true,
Mm-hmm.
but my 2 year was way more important than my 1 year, because then I knew I could do it again.
Right. That's cool.
I know.
Well, speaking of cool, I want to thank our amazing sponsors, F5 Project and The Ridge Treatment Facility, for just always taking care of us and sponsoring this podcast. And of course, if you are listening or watching and you want to support us as well, please subscribe below or just like our pages on social media and everything you can to just stay connected with us. We hope to continue to do these episodes and always bring you relevant content in your recovery journey. Or if you are not in recovery and still trying to figure things out, then obviously we support you and hope that you do find that. So today's topic, we're talking about motivation and recovery. And I think one of the things that was like kind of the transition for this next topic is like, do you always have motivation to stay sober every day?
No. I mean, I do. I want to be sober, but the maintenance of it, you know what I mean? It's just like working out or whatever. Like, I like the idea of having big muscles or whatever. I don't really want to, like, go do something. That's just dramatic. It feels dramatic.
Samesies. I see my friends that work out like every day, and I'm just like, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Good for you.
That's what I am with.
It's kind of like when you tell people you're sober and like, that's awesome. I respect you.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, like, you try. Like, I respect you. I think of that when people go and work out, and I'm like, shh, you do you, boo.
Yeah. Even if I asked those people to pick me up on their way, I still wouldn't go.
Dude, I went to Anytime Fitness one time. I had a membership. I actually went and got a membership, and the guy asked me, "Is he going to stay and work out?" And I was like, And so I was like, "I'll be back tomorrow." And then I came back tomorrow, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and I was just like, "I'm gonna take a nap." And that's where I was at in life, as I was taking naps at the places I was supposed to be working out at. And then after I did it once, I was like, this isn't gonna work. This is like a toxic relationship with a gym, because it's just like the gym is just a toxic person who's just like, you're not good enough.
Makes me feel bad.
Yeah, you're not good enough. You need to get in here and work on yourself. I'm like,
it's the burst of reform. We're always looking for the burst of reform, the silver bullet to make me feel better.
yeah. Back in the day, it was called meth.
Yeah.
Right.
Lose weight real quick.
Uh-huh.
Not a lot of muscle, though.
No, or teeth, but whatever.
That's fine. Yep. Who needs them? Yeah. I know, but sometimes I think I struggle with that. Like, I want to have the motivation. I want to, like, I'm going to be able to keep my son. I'm going to be able to keep a relationship. But then there's definitely some days, not today, but, like, probably in the past week, and I was just like,
You're at a place in life where that was when I lost my motivation.
Yeah.
Is when I had little kids and a career and a marriage and housekeeping. I just, you know what I mean? I got really into like self-pity. Nobody appreciates me. I'm the invisible maid. No, blah, blah, blah. I could make a whole dinner. This still happens. I can make an entire dinner. And if Matt walks from the oven to the table with the plate of food, the boys are like, oh, Dad made dinner. This is going to be awesome. And I'm like, anyway, but so that's where I was at when it was just, I was tired. You're just tired.
Yep.
And you just like, the first thing that I let go of, I thought because I had to do the kids, or they require constant care. They start fires, and I had to do my job. So the thing I let go was the meetings. And then it's so true. I'd said it a million times before, and then I lived it. Like you said, you don't know till you live it. You start to lose that stuff because I just became so unhealthy,
Right.
But anyway, so I totally get it. It's hard, especially when you guys both have young kids, but that can start fires if left alone.
I didn't have a young kid until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Thought it was done. I was like, man, I got like a couple years left, like it was doing time. And I remember when Christy was like, when she said she was pregnant, I was like, it was like, 18 years.
That took a turn.
Yeah.
She still like thinks like, I mean, the whole family thinks like they're just super grateful we had a daughter.
Yeah.
Because it was like complete game changer going from like raising boys or being a part of boys' lives, to having a daughter. Holy cow.
Do you think it was the gender, or was it your where you were in life?
I think it's both. I think like having a kid at this age is way better than when I was 17.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, they all fared well. Like they had great moms in their lives, so they got taken care of, like and loved on or whatever. They didn't have dad there. That's why the dad jokes are so easy for them when we get together. But being like I said, 30, I would not trade my worst day of being 31 for my best day at 17.
Jeez.
Yeah. But no, seriously, I just have a lot more stuff available to me now than I did when I was 17, so it's easier to be a dad.
Yep.
A home, vehicle, and I'm not restless, irritable, and discontent like I was when I was 17.
Yeah.
And so I'm a lot less, just in general, a lot less violent, aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm still a male, so it's there's still a struggle with like if my kids don't listen, I think they should be punished.
Right.
right? Like, how dare you not listen to me? Or my dogs, like, my dogs don't listen to me. I'm like, I've taught you better. You know, where, you know, Christy comes in and she's just like, we need to love on them and like help them understand why they're not listening.
Yeah.
Like,
We could be their
they're
teacher.
not listening because they're not listening.
Right.
You know, so, but I didn't realize how I was doing that to the boys until I had my daughter. Because I am way more graceful to her than I am my boys. And then I realized that this may be the reason my boys are so rough around the edges. Because they were constantly in survival mode, not knowing what their dad's going to say or do.
Right.
At least my daughter knows that I'm going to love on her.
Right.
And so it makes me think, you know, so I try to love on my boys as much as I can now. And like, because I can't really do much about yelling at them because they shaved their brother's head or something, or, you know, whatever. It's just hair. Like, my dad spanked the shit out of me when I shaved my brother's head. I yelled at my kid. I'm hoping that my boy will just see that it's not a big deal with his kid. Right. So it's like changing.
Yeah, it is changing.
Yeah.
That's hard though. It's hard to raise kids at all. But Matt's the same way. If I'm like, okay, listen, we could have probably talked about that, you know, where he's like, don't, and then the minute he doesn't even yell, but the minute he's stern, it's like everybody's crying, you know. So, and then he feels awful, and he's like, oh, I don't want to do that, you know. But the difference is, I don't think anybody apologized to me as a kid. No parent was ever like, I think I overreacted, I'm sorry.
My mom or dad, no one. I don't remember anyone ever saying, I'm sorry that I parented you like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I spanked you way harder than I should have. Or, you know, like my grandma used to make me go get peach tree limbs. I don't know if you've ever been spanked with a switch.
Right.
But like even the word in your head, you're just like, man, it's like lightning bolts of letters. It's just like very aggressive.
Yep.
My mom used a Christmas gift I had one, like that paddle with the ball on it.
Oh no!
Because I was just like sitting there, I was just like, hey mom, hey mom, hey mom, and then finally she just like ripped it off, and was like, I'm like, looking at that now, I'm like, man, they did two different things. I'm like, one, they did the best they could.
Yeah, for sure.
They were severely probably beat in
yeah.
comparison to me, so they fared well. But like, I could not imagine sending my daughter to the forest to go get the perfect switch of death and bring it back to me, and your loving hand will beat you with it, right? Like, like just
so
thinking
awful.
about that, like,
That's so awful.
but like when I was going through it, I was just like, I'm like,
here we go.
like, this switch, it's got a little bit of give in it. It might break. I'm going to use this one. You know what I mean? Yeah. Doesn't that sound like just chaos?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think I've swatted, one of my kids' butts maybe a handful of times between the four of them. Right? And it was probably something that just triggered some kind of like they were being mean to their mom, or they hit their mom or something, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like I was just like,
it's
old school. Like you hit her, I'm gonna spank you. Like
don't hit.
Yeah, don't hit. Or not a fist, but
It's so
it just
bizarre.
makes sense because we were like indoctrinated with it.
Right.
Like if I hit my mom, my dad would beat the shit out of me, and I never hit my mom again.
Right.
So in your head, it's like it worked, but then where it didn't work is I was extremely violent at school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Extremely violent. I was fighting all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, it didn't work. It just gave you a message of this is effective. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think it's hard now to like man, growing up, just a lot of those things that was normal. I remember when I told Jill said that I got spanked, and even before we were even pregnant, we were just talking about kids. It's like, yeah, I probably spanked my kids. The look of horror on her face, I was like, is that bad? Like I didn't even know the subconsciously that was wrong.
It's not as popular as it was with our parents' generation.
But it was just that was my normal.
Well,
I got
if you
spanked
came to
until I was
school
16.
Yeah, if you came to school and you got spanked that morning, you could walk in and be like, I got spanked this morning. Oh.
Yeah.
Like people would be like,
and people would know.
Yeah, they just because
they knew.
Walking sideways.
What'd you do?
Yeah, what did you do? today, like if kids go to school, like I'm glad that there's not as much spanking, because I think, like, I personally think that, like, there's a lot of people that are in recovery that dealt with that, a lot of traumatic, fist type stuff, or like super aggressive, like leather belts, and
But
stuff
our
like
parents were told if you didn't spank, you were
weren't
doing
good
them
parents.
a disservice.
Yeah.
Like,
spare the rod, spoil the child. Hurt
Yeah.
a lot.
and where'd that come from?
I think Proverbs,
the Bible.
the Bible.
Really? Well, that's super mean.
Yeah, again.
I don't know if you've read the Old Testament.
I've not. See,
She
kinda-
said that she's like, I'm
It's
not as
like
religious
super
as you,
dark.
Adam.
That's the dark to you, is they spared the rod. There was genocide
Oh, that's really
in there. It was talking donkeys and chopping prostitutes' heads off and stuff. So it's like,
And they're the most fun ones. Why would you
donkeys?
kill them? No, the
The
prostitutes.
prostitutes.
They're all diamond or sapphire. Anyway,
yeah, Old Testament. I mean, if you're into some like dark shit, like that's.
fire and brimstone.
Sure.
Like if you don't believe you're going to hell, that kind of thing.
I mean, that's New Testament too.
Okay.
But there was some like crazy stuff that happened there.
Right.
It's like reading the Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's just like, oh,
Like, it's intense. Oh, and then when
Yeah.
you watch it, it's like,
Dang.
whoa.
you got elves and giants and
But I think that's part of like the
Dinosaurs.
change.
Yeah.
Is
yeah,
that
for
like
sure.
I don't want to be like, after I was like, okay, once I like figured out, I was like, okay, that's bad. Like that's trauma. That's what that is. That's not normal. And then say, okay, well, what's normal? Normal's talking to your kids, doing all these different things.
You know, the problem is though, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, all those guys who are like doing podcasts or whatever, and just they totally undermine trauma. And it's crazy because Jordan Peterson's a psychiatrist. And he'll just be like, you need to be a death machine if you want to be in this world or whatever, and whatever, right? And so then you get this whole following of these people who are like, I'm gonna spank my kids.
Right.
It's like, no, he was talking about like your success. Like they just take things, and with a podcast, it's really hard to like explain context.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like what they mean by that. I guarantee you that Joe Rogan, I don't know if he has kids, he probably doesn't spank his kids. But he gives off the energy that he does,
Yeah.
right? Or like other speakers that I've heard, it was just like, I've been on this podcast with all these women, and they're just talking about like when their kids are in trouble, they're just going to show them that they love them and this and that. He's like, I raised my boys to own boys like yours, because when they get out into the real world, the world's not going to give a shit about them.
Right.
And I want my kids to be alphas or whatever. And it's like, so it gives off this vibe that he must spank his kids. He doesn't. He's like, and I'm not 100% on the whole like raising them like super aggressive, but I am trying to raise my boys that no one's going to put in the work for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be people out there that are going to expect a bunch of things, and a lot of them are being raised in the way that the world is puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah.
Like it's okay that you feel that way, which is fine, but there's got to be a solution for it.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to feel that way, but you got to do something about it.
Yeah. It's
Right?
yours
Not
to
just
do.
it's okay to feel that way. Go on.
Yeah. Make everybody else
Miserable.
Yeah, that's awful. I think we definitely try and raise them in love, and I'm trying to just show them and be a good example. And we only have one rule in my house, and it's don't be a dick. You know what I mean? Like, just don't be a dick. Kindness will always win out. But you also have to
Be a dick.
confident.
Oh, okay.
Be a dick. Do not be a dick. No, you have to be confident. I'm always like, nobody knows how you feel inside. All they can see is how you act. Chicks dig confident. You know what I mean? Or whatever their motivation is. But, and to just like, stand up for yourself. But always if you're in a bad mood or whatever, you don't have the right to treat people poorly just because you're having a bad day, or you're hangry, or you have a headache, or you're hot, whatever. That's not like, you can't be like, well, I get to be a dick to you because I'm hot. So stupid. Anyway, but yeah, with confidence and I don't want them to eat people up.
let me clarify. Like when I'm saying like go out there and just dominate or whatever, I'm not saying like go out there and treat people like shit. You can humbly take charge.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so
In a kind way.
I think I think the big mistake that I'm seeing with like kids or whatever is that we're just thinking that like continuously like just speaking like everything's gonna be okay if you just
right.
like let it go or whatever. It's like
No.
your bills aren't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that are in homeless shelters today because they were dependent on other people, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of single moms out there that were expecting dad to pay, and then he didn't pay his child support. He's nowhere to be, and now you're in a shit basket.
He probably said he was gonna.
And he probably said he was gonna. He probably, whatever. He was probably one of those shitty, like, I've been that guy.
Yep.
I was drunk and high all the time, and luckily I was surrounded. Like I had women, you know, like Leah and even, you know, mom and Nick's mom and like that all put in the work because they were raised in a way that was like he's not going to provide, I'm going to provide. Right. And I feel like we're like going into this world because we're just like patting people on the back instead of swatting them a little bit on the butt, that they're just going to expect that
Like they don't have to own their behavior.
they don't have to own their behavior. They don't have to like provide because someone else is going to provide or whatever. And it's going to be a rude awakening. There's a huge difference when I teach entrepreneurship in the prison versus the college.
Right.
Like when I teach it in the prison, they're like, just nodding head. They're like, that makes sense.
Right.
And you go out and you get this. If I fail, I need to pivot. I need to move forward. Right? Prison isn't forever, you know. And I'll go and, you know, talk to a bunch of people that want to start businesses in college, and they don't have a shit clue of what they're about. And as soon as they hit adversity, they quit.
Yeah, which is too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, because they probably could have done something great.
Right.
But they don't have the life skills of like
Yeah.
adversity and challenges.
You gotta let your kids fail. I don't know, like I love them enough to let them fail and figure it out on their own and always be there to be like, listen, we can talk about it. I can tell you my experience or whatever, but you gotta go do it. You gotta go handle it. This isn't for, I'm not gonna swoop in and like, my kid didn't do blah, blah, blah. First of all, he probably did. And secondly, I want him to come own it and make it right. But you're right. Just to save them from everything is only making your life worse. And if you think about the people in life that were leaders that you followed, they were kind to me, they connected with me, and then they were then they led me.
Stood for something.
Yeah, and I followed them. Yeah, followed them.
Yeah.
And they were confident, and I probably on the inside they were dying, you know, but all I knew is that they connected with me. I had a reason to follow them, and I would have burned the world down for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know who like the worst, like not worst people as in the sense of like their value, but the worst kind of like personality traits to work with in recovery are people who came from great homes. Like where everything was handed to them. Great homes in the sense, like maybe not in the sense of like that, right? But just they were just well off and they had everything like they are like the worst people to give suggestions to. You're like, I keep relapsing. I need to do something different. Yeah, maybe break up with that toxic ass girlfriend. Quit your job at the bar, right? And then you give it to them, and they're just like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like, but a guy gets out of prison, has nothing, and you know, I really, when I heard that no one can be too dumb for recovery, but they can be too smart for it, when I heard that, I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. And then after experience of mentoring people, I'm like, huh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I'm mentoring guys and they throw their degrees in my face.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And it was like, I got a degree. I was like, they're like, I got degrees. I'm like, I got felonies and LLCs. So it's like.
And look at us sitting in the same chair.
You called me, bro.
Yeah, exactly. You came to me for advice and now you don't need it.
Is there like a morgue upstairs or something? Jeez. Oh, we broke the fourth wall.
Oh, God.
He's talking to. That's like the fifth wall.
There's walls.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much.
It's all good. Yeah. We don't have to cut that out either. We can. We're she's just like, oh my god. We're raw and real here. Like if you can't hear it, there's like it's just lots of moving stuff upstairs. I thought it was like rolling. At first, it was different sounds. I thought it was like they were rolling people up in carpet, like throwing them, and then now they're moving the beds.
Clean up stains.
How you went to morgue first is really interesting.
Why?
I don't know. You could have thought of so many other things.
I
Moving
suppose they'd be
furniture,
on wheels.
hospital. A kids clinic. I don't know. Dental. Orthodontics.
A kid's birthday party.
Well, we want to thank F5 Project and the Ridge Treatment and Center for being amazing sponsors of this awesome podcast. This has been always a pleasure to be able to spend this time. So as we close, Adam, Martin, Kirsten Huovinen, would you guys want to share anything before we get out of here?
I don't know. Be kind and confident. Don't be a dick.
Gosh, don't be a dick. That's our new shirt. F5 Recovery Podcast. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Be sure to, if you're still listening, there's a new podcast in the prison called Chains to Changed, and they have like 3-4 episodes out. I have an episode coming out with them here pretty soon.
Cool.
And so it's on Spotify. I think it's on most. It's on most podcast channels or whatever. So if you just search Chains with a Z, Chains to Changed, you'll see Zach and Antonio doing their podcast, and
They've been doing this forever.
It's a
Ask
monster
the people,
show.
Yeah. Ask the people that are there. Don't assume. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very cool story how they were able to do that. So
Awesome. I love it.
And F5 had a big part in helping create it, so
Yeah.
it's super awesome seeing
Yeah.
a podcast inside a maximum security prison.
Yeah. Ask the people that need the help what they need. It just seems so simple.
Yeah, the whole culture has shifted to like way better.
Yeah. Thank God.
They have something to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
So thank you again for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another amazing episode. So have a great day in recovery.